Hello, Moonshiners. How I love this phrase, how I love recording guides about moonshine, and today is just such a day. Plus, we'll be doing something interesting for moonshine today. More precisely, I'll be doing it for myself and sharing it with you at the same time. If I'm not mistaken, I've even seen such a question in the chat a couple of times. Let's talk about the problem. I have a project that I'm doing on Moonshine. It's related to a Telegram chatbot, sending a certain chain of messages to those users who started interacting with the bot. It's all extremely simple. There's a simple resource. It has many relationship, corresponding to a set of messages. To specify the sequence of these messages, we need to set a position field. That is, we specify some position. If we now need to create the next message, we create and specify that this is our fourth message. Not very convenient if there are many messages, you can make a mistake. Make it a 4 twice, and possibly in the process get unexpected behavior of our application. It immediately suggests removing the position indication here in general and adding sorting so that we could simply take and drag the table row, specifying the ordinal number of this message. And here I am, like you, faced with this task. Is there something ready-made in Moonshine, like we'll take a resource, we have a has many with you, and we'll do something like reorderable here, and everything will work? There's no such thing, we need to write our own logic a bit. Moonshine is just arranged so that everything that's not there, you can implement yourself. Each field is maximally customizable. And let's see how to solve this situation using the example with has many. What will we need for this? Let's say we have a message resource. In this case, it doesn't exist separately for us, it's present only in this resource. But if it were, we wouldn't be able to change the set of fields directly in the resource. We need to change specifically for has many, and we can do this right here. Specify the fields method and define inside the set that will be specifically within the relationship. Let's just output the text title. We got a simple field. We also don't need to delete the message, we need to cancel the mass action, we won't have ID output either. For this, let's go to the main resource. Make get active actions. Return an array and we'll have only view. Create. Edit and, accordingly, delete without mass delete. Let's go back, understand that we don't have edit, but update. By the way, in the third version, I redid it to an object, just for such situations, so as not to keep it in mind. Okay, we have organized the appearance exclusively for this resource. The next thing we need to do with you is to add an icon, that we can drag these messages with you. The preview field is suitable for this. Let's use it. In general, the field would do, say, TD. But in this case, preview will be even easier. The only thing we need to change with you is the content of this preview. It is not taken from the value, we will generate it with you, and we will have just the icon make inside. And let's specify heroic icons outline. And it's called bars 4. Okay. Let's immediately put static. Let's go back, refresh and see that we have a drag, but nothing works yet. Since I've already mentioned static, let's look at one point. If we go with you to the main one, we also output has many here, and we will also observe an icon that we won't need here, and we won't sort here. What can we do with you for this? We can remove static. In the callback we will have the current value and the index. Accordingly, the index is the ordinal number in our table. And further, we removed static with you because we will need this here. We'll check, if we are on the index page, then let's output index +1. Otherwise the icon. Let's see what we get from this. We'll see that within the form everything is the same, but if we go to the index page, we'll just have the serial number here. This is exactly the behavior that's required. In general, you can make the index not on the form and negate it, so that we have the same thing on the detailed page if it's displayed. We've figured this out. The simplest thing is the appearance. Let's think about what we'll do next. Friends, the next step is important. We need to make our has many table sortable. What do we need for this? When I told you that there's no built-in functionality in Moonshine for such purposes, I slightly misled you. There's no ready-made sugar, but everything for this is present. Has many is generally just sugar for eloquent relationships. It's implemented on Table Builder, and it has a sortable method that we'll use. But, as I said earlier, everything in MoonShine can be customized, so we can access the Table Builder in has many. To do this, we need to use modify table. In the callback, we'll have Table Builder and the second Boolean parameter will be preview. What does it represent? This is a check. In this case, we're in preview mode for has many. Preview is on the index, when we're on the parent index page. Not preview is here in the form. We actually need the non-preview mode. Okay, let's move on and build the logic further. We'll do it like this. If it's preview, we don't do anything with the table, let it be sent back. If it's not preview, then we make it sortable. Looks plausible, let's go back, refresh. And we're given the ability to move table rows. But no actions will occur, as you can see, we just move them and that's it. If we look at the network, we'll also see that no requests are being sent, but we need to update the position field. How do we do this? Let's look at what method we have there for sortable, what parameters it has. We see the URL, we see the key, which equals the name of the primary key of the table elements. We see that by default it's ID, and we indeed have ID, we won't change anything. We need grouping if we have several tables nested within each other and they're sorted, then we need grouping. In this case, we don't need it, so we only need the endpoint. What can we do here? As we can see, it's just a string, and nothing prevents us from specifying through route, or just putting a link to a specific controller of yours on the endpoint, where you'll receive all the data and update it in your own way. This is the standard way, you can go with it, there's nothing wrong with that. But MoonShine also has sugar for this. I think you all know that buttons have a method that's called method, to call a specific method right in the resource. Let's use it. For this, we need to call async method URL from resource. Here it is. And specify which method exactly we'll be calling. Let's specify reorder and create it right away. And in general, that's all we need. Let's go back to the browser, refresh. And now do the sorting. And we see that now a request is being sent to the current resource. If we look at what the payload is, we'll see what we have. Which record we moved, its ID. In general, a set of all IDs. That is, standard behavior if you've worked with any library for resort. In general, we have everything to implement what we've planned. Let's do it. But, friends, since we're learning, let's look at another aspect of using an asynchronous method in resources. Let's return the MoonShine JSON response type. I'll tell you right away that any method always accepts MoonShine request. And for the test, let's return. And let's do request all to see everything that comes here. Okay, let's go back, drag again. Look. And we'll see exactly what we saw. There's an ID that we dragged, its serial number, in general, all the data. That is, we have ID, respectively ID 1, 2, 3, and their positions will be first, second, third. In this case, the same, let's do it like this, for clarity, that we have ID 1, 3, 2. Okay, but what are we missing? Here we have a request, we don't know what our parent record is. Which message bus should we take to then extract the relationships and do the resort? Let's do the following. We have a URL method, and we need to send the current ID along with it. For this, we need to specify params and make, say, ID. Get item ID. Take the current one, we are in the form. We have it in the URL, and we take this ID with you and pass it exactly the parent from the current resource. We are not interacting with you with the has many table row now. The next thing to pay attention to is the key. We specify ID with you, nothing prevents us from taking ID, item, anything. But if we do resource item with you, we will immediately get all the sugar from the request. Request will take get parameter resource item, resolve immediately with the current resource model, and we will get the final model. Let's see what it looks like. Let's do item request get. Let's take resource and do get item. That's it, friends. Here we will already have the current parent message bus model, filled from the database relative to the ID that we passed. That is, what we need. We can add a little annotations here and specify that this is message bus. Okay. Well, the most interesting thing is the implementation. In general, we won't need to return anything in this method. We need to update. We visually see that we moved, everything is okay, we don't need to do anything here with you, we just need to send a request and update the positions. We have data with you, where we have data in the form of a string in this format, that is, ID and, accordingly, the key of the array is the position, its index. And we need to make a request to the database. Let's not invent, we will have a relationship, we will always have few records, I think no more than 10 messages. So when updating we will use cases. The query will look something like this. Update. Table. Set. Position. And then we will have case. ID. End. And inside we will already generate based on our data. If we have ID 3, then accordingly the position we will have 1. If we have 2, then 2. And accordingly, if 1, then 1. If we're talking about the set that we have here. Okay, the task is clear, let's implement it. We have item, relations we have messages. Let's write item. Messages. And since we have few records, we won't invent anything with you, we'll go through each one. And perform update. What exactly we will have for update, we already know with you, we described it. The field we have is position. Next, let's use the db raw case ID end facade. And add our conditions here. In order to get the conditions, knowing that we have a string, we need to quickly iterate through them and form them. It's not difficult to do this, let's do the following. We have a request. You can immediately get stringable. str data let's do explode. We have a comma there. Let's do the following. Let's put it in a variable their case, let it be statement. And then again we'll do a string implode. The value we'll have with you is ID, and accordingly, the keys will have our position indices. Let's do position. Accordingly here we have when. Here's such a construction ID and position. Our keys will be from 0 so we'll add +1. It's simple, and we'll add case statement here. We can also add a check with you that in general, if we suddenly have an empty string, let's do it, if it's not empty with us, then we perform all these manipulations with you. Just in case, let's add such a check. Okay, let's see. Seems to be all true. Whether it will work or not, we'll see with you now. Let's go back to the browser. Just in case, let's continue to track what's happening there. We see that it seems to be working. There's a response, and the third became the second for us. We update and see that it works. Let's make second first, okay, first last. Okay. If we go, look, then our position changes, first, accordingly second and third. Everything is excellent, everything works. At the same time, everything also changes on the index, sorting works. We have updated exactly those records of the relationship in this resource based on what we sort with you. You can still add beauty through trtd attributes. Make the column with sorting smaller, or do it somehow differently, but in general, everything we wanted to do with you, we did. As a result, what knowledge did we gain with you? Firstly, that we can generate an endpoint for asynchronous method call in a resource not only through action button or form builder. We can use the method in the resource or on the page and get the same thing. Additionally, we can pass additional parameters through params. It also accepts closure so that we get the current item table with you and generate based on it. We also easily change the set of fields in has many, add some additional ones through preview, or we can do the same with our custom components. Most importantly, we modify the table and send a request through the method, make sorting. Nothing complicated. This lesson is also notable for you to understand that in general in MoonShine everything is built on form builder, table builder. We have sugar when we output has many somewhere here on the resource. But if you have something complicated, nothing prevents you from not using has many at all, outputting table builder, making it as you see fit, or creating classes and extends, making it even more custom for you. In general, there are no restrictions. Use and make cool projects using MoonShine. And with that, the lesson is over. Looking ahead, I'll say that I'm now preparing another interesting guide on MoonShine, where I'll tell you about all this, let's say, asynchrony in MoonShine, how it works in action buttons, in table builder, in forms, how reactivity works, what can be done with it. In general, about all of this. If you have more ideas or something is not clear to you in MoonShine, be sure to write in the comments. And friends, I know, we are becoming more and more. Let's show under this video that there are already many of us. We'll write comments, put likes, support the MoonShine project. At the same time, tell me that you really need such lessons, make them more often, as I do them with pleasure, and if you need them, then I will work in double mode. And that's all friends, thank you all for watching. I also count on your like, on comments. I say thank you for watching and we'll see you in the next video on the MoonShine Video Guides channel.